Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a quick tutorial on how to use Logger Pro. We're going to use Logger Pro to complete several labs in our course. So what I want you to do first is download Logger Pro from the website. I've added a link on the COHS website so that you can find Logger Pro and download it onto your system. Also, you'll find on the COHS website several movies. Make sure you download each of the movies because you will need them in order to complete your labs. With everything downloaded, we're ready, set to go. So we just need to put the videos into Logger Pro. So to do that, we need to come up to Insert. Make sure you have Logger Pro open, of course. Click on Insert. Go down to Movie. And you'll get this pop-up window. This pop-up window is just all the default files that are already built into Logger Pro. Unfortunately, one of the videos that we're going to use is not in the default folders. It's actually downloaded from the COHS website. So you need to navigate on your computer to where you've saved that file. I've saved mine onto the desktop, so simply I have to click on it, hit open, and there it is inside Logger Pro. Excellent. So I highly suggest make the video as big as you possibly can. It will help in the analysis of your videos as well as you'll get better data by doing this. All right, so now we have the video open. There's going to be just a few things I want to point out. In the bottom left-hand corner, you will see your play, stop, rewind, step backwards, or step forwards through the video. First things I want you to do when you have the video open is get to a point where you're confident that there's no more human interaction. All I'm doing is I'm clicking on the next frame button. So at this point I'm confident that my hand has left the air cart and the air cart is under its own kind of momentum. Alright, so we're ready. The video is now prepped for us to do some analysis on it. To do that, you want to come down to the right hand side of the video. You'll see the Enable Disable Video Analysis tools. If you click on this button right here, it should, now I need to move my video over slightly, bring up this toolbar. This toolbar here will be your command center for analyzing your videos. So moving from the top to the bottom, top one is just like the arrow that you have if you want to select anything on your screen, except that this button, this arrow, will select points that you've placed on the movie screen. To place some points on the screen, you need to go to the next button down. That will add points to our video. We'll come back to that one in a second. In order to get accurate data, you need to set your origin. So click on the third button down. It kind of has two crosshairs that are green and then a red dot. And this will allow you to set where x equals 0, y equals 0 is on the movie. So I'm going to set the left end, of the air track as my origin. So next things we have to do is we have to define a scale in our movie. In order to have accurate data, Logger Pro needs to know how large 1 centimeter is, or a meter, or some type of distance. So we will click on our meter stick that we've placed in front and drag along the length of the meter stick. And you'll notice that a pop-up window comes up once you release, and it'll ask you how large is that line that you just drew. And since it's a meter stick, of course, we want it to be 1 meter. So click on OK. And you're ready to start collecting some data. So remember the button that we went to, the add points? It's now time to click on it. And there's a few things I want to mention about the add points button before we start actually adding points to our graph. The minute you start clicking on the video, the Logger Pro will go to the next frame in the video. So you want to make sure that the point that you're adding to your video is in fact what you want your data to represent. I'll show you for example. If I put a dot down at the very front edge of my cart, as soon as I drop that dot, the cart moves forward 1 frame. So this is how we're going to track the motions of our air cart. So you want to click on the exact same part of the air cart several times. So I click again, and again it moves forward. And you want to do this several times. I'm going to just track the air cart very quickly. So once you've collected some data, you'll notice that I'm just going to click off of my add points, so I don't add any random points to the video. I'm going to move off to one of the edges of the video and get to the point where I can minimize or shrink my video. So it's when your hand turns into kind of this double arrow, and you just click and drag, and your video will get nice and smaller. So you can see now, if we were trying to add points to a video this small, it would be rather difficult to ensure that we are on, say, the front edge of the cart. That's why I would ask that you make your videos as big as possible on your screen. Alright, so behind the video, while you were clicking, you may have noticed that Logger Pro started plotting some data for us, which is nice now that we don't have to punch in all of our numbers into this table and then have Logger Pro then make us a graph. It did it automatically for us. So in this tutorial, I will just show you quickly how to do conservation of energy. I won't actually go through all of the steps, but I will set it up so that you are comfortable completing your lab. In order to see most of the table, let's just get to the point where you can see this dot. Again, if you highlight over top of it, you'll get the double-ended arrow. And if you drag outwards, it allows you to see more of the graph, or sorry, more of the table. And then use the scroll across the bottom. So Logger Pro has given us 5 columns: time, our X position, our Y position of our cart, as well as the velocities. That's great because we do like to see the velocity. In order to calculate, say, our kinetic energy, we need our velocities. So, however, we don't need our vertical components. So if you would like to get rid of it, you just simply click on the heading of Y, then right click, go down to delete column, and there you go. You've removed the Y position from our graph. All right. So now we need to rename each of our columns. To do that, we double click on the column heading. It will bring up the pop-up window where we can change the name. Let's change the name to horizontal position. And you'll see that the short name, fine, let's leave it as X. The units are in meters, which is great. And if you go into options, you can actually change the color of the data point. So let's change it to blue, just to see what happens. And there we go. Our position is now blue. We'll leave our velocity as red, but we want to change the velocity name. Again, double clicking on the heading, you can change it to horizontal velocity. And short name VX, that's fine with me. And the units are in meters squared. The box towards the middle of the pop-up, you'll see it asks for an expression. The expression for velocity is the time derivative of position. If that makes sense to you, great. Otherwise, don't really worry about what that means. Just allow Logger Pro to do its expression for velocity. All right, so when we're ready, we just hit done and click on your graph, and it will bring up the graph over top of the table. You may notice that it has only the horizontal position on our vertical axis and the time on the x-axis. Say we wanted to have horizontal velocity as well on our graph. To do that, we don't actually have to make a new graph. We just simply have to single click on the vertical axis name and scroll down to more. So it's a left click again. And we get another pop-up window. in this pop-up window, you can select from having the time on the vertical axis, which makes no sense because you would have time on the X and time on the Y, and it would just lead to a kind of straight line across your graph. However, we wanted the horizontal velocity, so let's click on horizontal velocity on the button and then hit OK. And sure, there we go. Now we have both our position and our velocity on the same graph. Ultimately, we want to find the kinetic energy. So we know kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 mv squared. However, we don't have anywhere in our table. We can't figure out how to add another column. I double clicked here, just brought up another table, another pop-up. In order to add another column, you want to go to Data, New Calculated Column. And our new calculated column, we want it to be kinetic energy. The short name will be KE. And the units are joules, so just J. And our expression for kinetic energy is 1/2, so 0.5, times mass. So the mass of our cart, say the mass of the cart was 1 kilogram. That's overestimating for now. I'll actually give you the actual masses in the lab write-up. Multiplied by, multiplication is just the star, so to make a star on your computer, it's Shift 8. What we will need to multiply it by is velocity. So since we already have velocity in one of our tables, click on variables, and you'll notice that I can multiply it by time, horizontal position, or velocity, which is exactly what we want. So click on velocity, and then let's go caret, which was Shift 6, 2. Otherwise, you can do it as multiplied again by velocity if you really want to. And we now have another column in our table for kinetic energy.